Oh, almost ready. All right, I show 6:30. We ready to start? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, March 15th, 2021 Town of Scarborough Planning Board meeting. Our first order of business is to call this meeting to order, 6:30 p.m. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. Angela or Jay? Thank you, Jay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Next, we have the roll. Doreen.
Rachel Hendrickson. Here. Roger Bealey.
Here.
Rick Meinking.
Here.
Nicholas McGee.
Here.
Russell Scudder.
Here.
And Jennifer Ladd. Here. Rick Duperry.
All right. Show that as everyone. I'd like to say official welcome to Russell joining the board as a alternate, correct?
Correct.
And we have Rick Meinking as an official voting member. Rick Duperry is still serving as our first alternate. So welcome, Russell.
Thank you.
We did this last time too, didn't we?
We did.
We did.
one more time with feeling.
You're a creature of habit.
I a little lapse in memory for me since I missed the last board meeting, so I had to scrape six weeks ago to remember that we had done this before. So my apologies, Russell.
Oh, no worries.
And thank you to Rachel for stepping up at the last board meeting to run it.
Yes.
All right. We have the approval of the minutes for February 22nd, 2021. Those currently are unavailable, so we're going to table that item to the next meeting. Item number 5 is state manufactured homes. The applicant had requested that they table this willingly, so we'll see them in 3 weeks, hopefully. So our first real item of the evening is Maine Life Care Retirement Community LLC requests a site plan amendment for 15 Piper Road, Assessor's Map R101, lots 2 and 5. Jamel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This project is located in the existing Piper Shores campus off of Spurwink Road, and the applicant's proposing to expand the existing parking area on the main campus for 11 additional spaces, along with the addition of 24 parking spaces at their maintenance facility along Greenwood Avenue. The proposal also includes new landscaping provisions and the relocation of a private wastewater disposal system adjacent to the maintenance facility. So the applicant was actually last before the board back in June of 2020. During this review, the residents in the Greenwood Avenue neighborhood identified an issue with an abandoned well on the Piper Shores property that resulted in safety and flooding concerns for abutters. It is staff's understanding that the structure has been located and flagged in the field with the intent to be filled in place. So the applicant should provide the board with an update on this issue this evening. And staff did provide the board with the draft motion with conditions for your consideration this evening. I'll turn it back to you at this point.
Thanks, Jamel. Mr. Seymour, are you presenting this evening?
Yes, I am.
We'll have at it.
All right. I'm going to see if I can grab the screen here. Okay, so Jamel did an outstanding job presenting you where we are working at on the site. Currently, I'll blow this up for you. The location we're looking at to expanding is in this general area here. some spaces here and some spaces here. And the other location is over here, which is the maintenance building. We're looking to redo the parking lot there. Currently, there is a gate here at the dead end of Greenwood Ave. As Jamel pointed out, we've been working with staff and the main DEP as this is amended site location project. We did receive our approvals from the DEP, which is attached in the packet. Primarily, we're looking at porous pavement as an application for treatment. This works very well because it allows the water to naturally recharge back in the ground. I'm going to move forward here with a little bit of change. Oops, sorry, went too far. There we go. The biggest change is actually on the maintenance building. Currently, there is a parking lot in this general area. Drainage off of that extension, I call it the extension of Greenwood. There's currently a culvert here, which crosses the road, goes into a separate drainage system, which runs parallel to Greenwood and eventually crosses all the way down to the Spurwink River. What we are proposing here is to redo this parking lot where there currently is a septic system underneath, relocate the septic system to the rear here. This whole area will be porous pavement, which will allow the water to naturally recharge into the ground. There are some drain pipes here to collect the drainage, and that is shipped to this location here. Although it says that that's a 6-inch pipe, you must understand that to make this work effectively, we have a cap on the end of that, which has a 1-inch orifice, allowing all that drainage to back up and recharge into the ground even more. So the outfall here is below or at existing conditions. This meanders down through a section of Piper-owned property. It's ledgy. There's a lot of wetlands down in there. It just slowly mitigates. I know last time we spoke with the board, we looked at options of seeing if we could connect into the drainage system in Greenwood. We did meet out in the field, took a look at that. It is essentially, I'm going to say impossible, but very difficult. There's a lot of ledge to cross to get to the outfall point. And at the end of the day, all we're doing is really putting the outfall of water that could be coming off this parking lot onto abutters that didn't receive this water. So we're kind of contributing to a location that didn't have an impact before. The well, as Jamel pointed out, is somewhere down in this area. I did go over twice. I met once with the neighbors and walked the perimeter of the property to see drainage flows and see if we could find the well. We couldn't. I went back again, couldn't find it a second time. On the third attempt, they did flag the well, and I have spoken with Piper, and as part of this project, they will agree to fill the well and secure it. It currently is a shallow dug well. It's kind of in a small wet area, very thick, heavy vines growing over it, and it has some old plywood. So for a safety precaution, we are recommending that Piper Shores fill that well. I know that the neighbors originally believed that the well was a contributor to the drainage issues. After looking at it, just because it's in a wet area, there are some weeping of the wetlands there, but it's nothing really contributed by the well itself. So with that, I'll let the board have the podium and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. We have an opportunity for public comment on this item. If you're here in attendance and would like to speak, please use the raise my hand button. We'll see if we can get you in. All right, seeing none, I'll turn this back over to the board. Roger, do you want to start off?
I think Roger's muted.
Roger, are you on mute?
Yeah,
There you go.
I'm unmuted now, but I'm having trouble getting the window pane back. But I can, I'll tell you what I think though, at this point, as long as, I think the issue primarily is just the well. And if the well's been identified and Piper Shores is in agreement with filling it, I don't see any other issues at this point.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Rick Minking.
I echo that, except is there any pole lighting or anything going into these additional spaces? I can't recall seeing a photometric on this plan at all. Or am I could be just have forgotten it, but I don't see it in any of the submitted material today.
The existing lot up by the residences is already lit. We're not adding any other additional poles there, and nothing is being added down here on the maintenance lot.
So there's all adequate lighting for,
Correct, yeah. The maintenance is just primarily for contractors and various maintenance people working out of the maintenance barn.
understood.
Everything
All
that
right, If there's
a light
acceptable
on-
lighting there,
I believe there's a light on the building that's been there all along.
okay. Then that's all I had.
Thanks, Rick. Jen,
Beyond the presentation and comments that others have had, I don't really have anything else to add.
okay, thank you. Rachel,
I believe this is the third time we've seen this, and Piper Shores has been a responsible citizen. And I have no further questions. They've done what we've asked and appreciate it.
thanks, Rachel. Rick DePerry,
Yeah, it's looks okay to me. I don't really have any questions at this point.
thank you. Russell,
I was not at the previous meeting, so if I cover stuff that's already been covered, forgive me. I did go out to the site and looked it over. I have a question for the engineer regarding the snow storage area that you show on the other section. Maybe you could pull that up. You know, we haven't had much snow this year, and there's about an 8 or 9 foot pile of snow next to the building in the northwest corner by the HVAC shed or cover. I guess those units are covered. I don't know if it's just a fence or whatnot.
Just a
But
fence,
then
yeah.
on the opposite side, you're showing a new storage area down here in the bottom. And I note that there's some valves there and there's some sort of right of way there. Maybe this has been covered, but just want your thoughts on that.
This was an area that was selected by Piper. I believe their program is obviously they try to tuck into corners like all parking lots do, the best of their ability. But when the snow gets to be a point where it becomes a nuisance or blocks, visual sight on corners, they contract to remove that. Not aware of any. There are some valves down there, but I'm not aware of any restrictions on those. Those are all buried at grade. There's no concern about them being temporarily covered in the wintertime. As far as the right-of-way goes, that there is an existing right-of-way of record that kind of zips through there. But I believe that is no longer of relevance and no benefit to any of the parties involved.
So, okay, coming back to those valves then, you're saying that if there's 8 or 10 feet of snow piled up there, you're not concerned about those valves?
If there is a problem with the valves in the wintertime, I believe Piper has the resources to get an excavator in there and clear those away to gain access if necessary.
Okay. That's my
It's
only
not
comment.
much different than being out in the street, and ice covered in some parking lots and things like that. It's unfortunate. It happens in Maine.
Oh, I'm well aware of that. That's all I really noted here, Nick.
all right, thank you very much, Russell. All right, I don't have a whole lot to add to the conversation. Jamel, do you have a motion?
Jay is going to share this one. Thanks, Jay.
All right,
Are you
I
seeing
moved-
it at this point?
I have it, yep.
Okay, that's great.
I move to approve the site plan amendment project titled Piper Shores Parking Expansion as depicted on the plan set prepared by Sebago Technics dated 3/1/21 with the following findings and conditions. Findings: the applicant is proposing to extend the existing parking on the main campus by 11 additional spaces, as well as the addition of 24 parking spaces at their maintenance facility along Greenwood Avenue. The proposal also includes new landscaping and the relocation of a private wastewater disposal system. The project is located within an approved contract zone. Planning Board has reviewed the application and supporting documentation and finds that the proposed design of the site plan adequately addresses site plan review and zoning ordinance requirements for site utilization and layout, access, internal vehicular movement, parking, pedestrian ways, landscaping, stormwater management, lighting, architecture, signage, utilities, and storage. Conditions: 1, prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall coordinate with staff in regards to the abandoned well and infrastructure on the Piper Shores property to ensure that the structure is filled or removed. 2, prior to start of construction, a pre-construction meeting is required. The meeting shall include appropriate town staff, the developer, and their site contractor, and is to be coordinated through the planning department. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Rachel. Any further discussion? All right. Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Rachel Hendrickson,
Yes.
Roger Beely,
Yes.
Rick Meinking,
Yes.
Jennifer Ladd,
Yes.
Nick McGee. Yes. Sure, that is unanimous. Congratulations and good luck. Our next item on tonight's agenda is Crossroad Holdings LLC requests a subdivision amendment review for the Innovation District subdivision at the Downs, Assessor's Map U53 lots 1 through 55. Jamel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the applicant's proposing to combine lots 31 and 50 into a single lot and lots 51 and 52 into a single lot. The proposal also includes modified easement configurations within the subdivision as well. The plans depict an overlap of the landscape and utility easements, and there appears to be a potential for a conflict between the installation of utilities and plantings that staff did note. The applicant's also proposing a landscape easement on lot 30 to benefit this lot. However, staff has recommended that the owners of lot 31 be responsible for planting within the easement, given the proposed sequence of development. And given all of the easement overlaps within this small area, the plans are unclear and staff suggests modifications to the plans for clarity of record. And staff did provide the board with a draft motion with conditions for your consideration before the meeting this evening. Turn it back to you.
Thanks, Jamel. Dan.
Good evening. Dan Bacon here on behalf of Crossroads Holdings. I think Jamel did a great job of introducing this subdivision amendment. It's an amendment that relates to the next two items on your agenda, two different site projects. And the screen here shows this reconfigured subdivision plan, much like we're doing with other lots in the Innovation District. So lot 31 is being reconfigured to include what is currently 31 and 50, and then a portion of 30. And it's been designed specifically for the Crown site needs that are the site plan that's on your agenda for the next item. And then lot 51 is the combination of lot 52 and 51. As was introduced, we've made a landscape easement. This is really in response to staff's recommendation on having some separation between the Crown site and the future development of lot 30, where we agree with staff in terms of having that landscape easement benefit lot 31. It's on lot 30. So that was an error, and we've updated the plan already. And in addition, we're pleased to improve the line weights and clean up the plan per staff's comments, and make a modest adjustment in the easement area, and not have the utility easement underneath the landscaped easement. So so with that introduction, we're pleased to make those adjustments and request approval in order to move forward with the next two agenda items.
Thanks, Dan. We have the opportunity for public comment on this item. If you're here in attendance and would like to speak, please use the raise my hand feature. All right, seeing none, I'm going to turn this over to the board. Rachel, do you want to start this one?
Actually, I don't have questions. I think it is in line with what we've done and with the plan behind the Innovation District, that the developer would be able to redivide the lots according to according to the purchasers. Since the staff and the developer have handled the question of the easement, I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm actually just gonna I'm just gonna in general open this up to the board. If you had something that you wanted to discuss on this, just use the raise my hand or put your hand up for me. Okay, I don't see any other comments out of the board at this point. I'm just gonna quick question for staff. I know you're probably just seeing the changes for the first time here right now, unless they did get you a copy earlier in the day, but yeah, I think you had some concerns about the easements. Do you believe that they've clarified this enough at this point?
I think that based on the conditions of approval, we can work with them to make the changes that are needed anyway. It's hard for us to look right now, but I do see that the landscape easement does benefit lot 31 as suggested. But we can look into the details with the applicant directly.
Okay, great.
If I might, Nick, I did just have a question. So one of our comments was about there's an overlap, or at least what appeared to be based on what we could tell, of a landscape easement and a utility easement. And I guess I didn't quite hear what the response was to that. So, and maybe others caught it and I missed it. So that'd be helpful to hear.
Yeah, there's actually a 2-foot overlap out of the 10-foot landscape easement. We can adjust that line so that the utility easement isn't underneath the landscape easement. The utility easement's 40 feet wide, so we have room for the utilities and make that adjustment, Jay.
Okay.
All right, so no further comments on this, and I'll ask Jamel for the motion.
You gonna share this one again, Jay? Thank you.
Okay. All right. I move to approve the project titled Fifth Amended Overall Subdivision Plan proposed by Crossroad Holdings LLC as depicted on the plan set prepared by Goral Palmer dated 2/23/21 with the following findings and conditions. Findings: the proposed Fifth Amendment amended subdivision plan includes the combination of lots 31 and 50 into a single lot consisting of 3.9 acres, the combination of lots 51 and 52 into a single lot consisting of 2.7 acres, modification of the drainage and utility easements within the proposed lot 31, elimination of the utility and access easement within the proposed lot 51. Subdivision is located within the Crossroads Planned Development, CPD zoning district, and is further identified on the Town of Scarborough tax maps as map U53 lot 4. Conditions: 1. Prior to the signing and release of the final plan, the applicant shall address the comments in the staff review memo dated 3/15/21, including A, revise the landscape easement on lot 30 to be the benefit of lot 31. B, revise the utility and landscape easements areas shown on lot 30 to adjust for any conflicts of uses between the utility and landscape easement areas. C, revise the plan set to include an inset clarifying the proposed easement areas. All other relevant existing conditions from the July 22nd, 2019 Planning Board subdivision approval will remain in effect. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Roger. Any discussion on the board? Rachel?
Yeah, I was wondering if we should mention the lot, I think it's 30 now, that was made considerably smaller because that lot is also affected by this amendment. So I just wasn't sure whether that should be in the condition because that lot is also affected. as part of this adjustment.
Are you thinking, Rachel, is making it one of the findings where we you're talking about sort of where we reference the other lots?
I think so, because otherwise, there's no record that that lot has changed. Other than.
Excuse me while I do this on the fly. See if you like what I do.
Yeah, that I think that does it. We don't have to get it necessarily into the acreage, but I think a discussion that actually that's affected by this draft motion or by the motion is appropriate.
Rachel, do you want to make that an official amendment?
Yes,
Motion to amend?
A motion to that effect to amend the draft motion to include modification of lot 30 as depicted on the plan under the findings.
Second.
I have a second on that. Any discussion on the amendment? All right, seeing none, I'll call the vote on the amendment. Rachel Hendrickson.
Yes.
Roger Beely.
Yes.
Rick Meinking.
Yes.
Jennifer Ladd.
Yes.
Nick McGee. Yes. All right, sure that is unanimous on the amendment. Now for the main motion as amended. Rachel Hendrickson.
Yes.
Roger Beely.
Yes.
Rick Meinking.
Yes.
Jennifer Ladd.
Yes.
Nick McGee. Yes. All right, sure that is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you in a minute. Next item on tonight's agenda. 31 Innovation Way LLC requests a site plan review for lot 31 within the Innovation District subdivision at the Downs, Assessor's Map U53, lot 31. Jamel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this lot proposal is located on the now modified lot 31 within the Innovation District subdivision at the Downs. The applicant's proposing to construct a 40,000 square foot building that consists of office space, sales, service, demonstration and delivery, and light assembly of forklifts, lift trucks, and associated components and accessories. The applicant was last before the board in early February for a sketch plan review of the project. As noted in the staff review memo, there is some ambiguity within the Innovation District regulating plan related to principal frontage and fenestration requirements. So given that this lot is a corner front lot with 2 principal frontage, the proposed orientation of the building results in actually 3 sides facing principal or a public street. So the applicant's proposing to fully meet the 50% fenestration requirements along the building's north elevation, which directly faces the Innovation Way and Center Street intersection. On the east and west elevations, the applicant is proposing to split the walls, meeting the 50% fenestration requirement along a portion of each wall that is most visible from a public street. So given the unique situation, the proposed approach on this site, the board should provide direction to staff and the applicant in regards to the proposed approach to meeting the required fenestration percentages. During the sketch plan review, there was discussion related to 1 row of parking between the building and Innovation Way and Center Street. Instead, the applicant's continue to propose a double row of parking, but with a robust planting program with raised berms as well. So the applicant and the board should be sure to discuss this design this evening. Staff has also noted that there appears to be an opportunity to provide additional planting and landscaping provisions along the Center Street frontage to help soften the impact of the 40,000 square foot building when viewed from Center Street. And the applicant's also proposing to provide fewer parking spaces for the project than required by the zoning ordinance. So the planning board will need to provide direction on whether the proposed project and use can be carried on with the proposed reduction in spaces. And staff did also suggest that the applicant provide plantings within the landscape easement that's actually on lot 30 as part of this project to ensure adequate buffering and separation of uses for the abutting property. At this point, I'll turn it back to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Jamel. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dan Bacon on behalf of 31 Innovation Way LLC, which is the investment group that's delivering the site for Crown. Crown is going to be leasing this site from 31 Innovation Way. And I'm just going to provide a quick introduction, and then Will Savage. I'm joined by Will Savage of Acorn Engineering, who's going to walk through the details of the updates to the site plan. Tom Perkins is also at the meeting to provide any feedback or answer questions on architecture, as well as Margot from Acetos Landscape Architecture. So we were before the board at sketch plan. Jamel did a great job of introducing some things that the board looked for and where we stand right now. We're, again, really excited about Crown lift trucks kind of rounding out this crossroads in the Innovation District. They're obviously occupying lot 31 that was just approved through Subdivision Amendment, and we think is a great complement to the other three corners. We've been working really closely with them on kind of balancing their layout needs with the Innovation District design guidelines, and achieving the Innovation District design guidelines, and also their kind of unique site programming for this location. As indicated, we've made some adjustments to the landscaping, and Will's going to talk about that. We have actually reduced some of the parking out front. There's still 2 rows of parking, but reduced the number of spaces along the front, and we've added significant landscaping and berming along the front to respond to board comments. And we've come up with a way to fenestrate the building, not only on the front side, which is the prominent side facing the intersection, but also wrap the 50% fenestration requirement on the 2 corners that are closest to the public streets. And Will's going to present some additional landscaping that we've added on the center street side, where the building tapers away from the street, so that we're screening that end of the building, which on the inside is a warehouse, to have it be attractive to the street while also meeting the needs of Crown. So with that introduction, I'll turn it to Will to dive into more details.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Dan. Members of the board, my name is Will Savage with Acorn Engineering. Pleased to be before you here tonight. So what has been up on your screen thus far is the rendering that was requested within the planning memo that we have provided here for you tonight, and happy to come back to this at any time. So moving along to our slide 2, the building location has intentionally been set to maintain the rhythm, scale, and massing that can currently be seen at the intersection. Across the way, you have Score Builders, which is Score Builders at this location, which is a 1-story building with parking along the side. It's more of a classic corner lot that you can see here with a 90-degree angle. We also have across the way, we have the Throttle Club, which is a 2-story building with that also includes parking in the front. And then we also have the AV Technics building, which is 2 stories that also includes some parking in the front as well as the side. And then we have over here is also the down self-storage that we previously worked on. So the development is the proposed 40,000 square foot Crown industrial building that will also include office space, sales, service, demonstration, and delivery. Crown is a world-class leader in forklifts and material handling equipment. When it came to the site design, careful attention was paid to balance the needs of the user with the Innovation District design guidelines and environmental impacts. We greatly appreciate the board's comments and input that was provided back on February 1st of this year at the sketch plan review. Following the board meeting, we then had a robust and beneficial discussion with town staff, and that was held on February 12th, was the staff review meeting. And from the board's comments and from the staff's comments, we've incorporated all of that into what we believe is is a really thoughtful and balanced approach to the site design. So notable changes include eliminating, previously we had 6 parking spaces adjacent to Innovation Way, and thereby eliminating and relocating those parking spaces allowed us to have a more robust landscape plan adjacent and close by to the pavilion. We have also, at the board meeting, we heard the request for additional use of landscape berms. And so I don't know how well you can see it, but zooming in a little bit, these black lines outline the 2 proposed landscape berms where we are elevating the grades with the plantings on top. And we really feel as though these landscape berms will enhance the screening of the parking lot while creating a more intimate pedestrian experience along Innovation Way as well as Center Street. A 10-foot berm, or sorry, a 10-foot buffer is the requirement. However, in the majority of locations adjacent, so this dotted line that you can see, that's the 10-foot buffer requirement. And in most cases, it's not just a 10-foot buffer that we're providing, but in fact, a 30-foot buffer. So, furthermore, we've utilized different various species that Margot can also get further into detail into, but we've utilized eastern white pines closer towards the along the Center Street frontage here. And the use of the pines are to really to supplement and enhance the existing wooded buffer that we already have and that will be preserved along Center Street as well as along Innovation Way. We have this existing tree line and buffer that will be maintained. As Dan mentioned, we put a lot of thought and care into the fenestration requirements. The north side is being treated as the front, and it meets the 50% fenestration requirements. And then we also wrap, so this blue line that you can see is where we wrapped the fenestration requirements around the building. So it's not just on one side that we have the 50%, but we really wrap that pretty generously into the site on both sides. And then we meet the 15% requirement. So, really what does this all add up to? We're looking at from the public street, when you're coming down Innovation Way, you have this existing wooded buffer. So if you're at this location on Innovation Way, you're looking into the existing wooded buffer. We've also greatly enhanced the landscaping within this proposed center island that separates the private drive from the parking lot. And as you continue down along Innovation Way, once again, we have this robust landscaped island, and then you're seeing the 50% fenestration. When you come across the private drive intersection with Innovation Way, you're looking down towards that 50% fenestration. As you get closer to the pavilion, once again, we have these landscape berms that create that visual interest and step the grades up in that pedestrian experience, so that we're blocking the views of the parking lot and you're seeing the building and the 50% fenestration. As you come around Center Street, once again, the fenestration is wrapped around. We've created a more robust planting plan while also balancing the needs for snow storage. That is why we don't have a planting at the end of the parking lot here, because we're trying to provide enough room for that snow storage. So as you come down Center Street, if you're driving southbound, you're looking over your shoulder, you're seeing that fenestration, the additional planting, and then you start to get into that existing wooded buffer. So we feel as though we're really striking the balance between utilizing the existing buffer, the proposed buffer, different heights, as well as the intent of that front fenestration. So moving along, as highlighted in the prior planning board agenda item, is this 10-foot landscape easement. And that really came out of, that was an excellent comment that was brought up at the staff meeting that we held. Was the concern at the time was, well, how do we know, staff was questioning, how do we know that this impervious area for the hammerhead and the truck turnaround was not going to just connect seamlessly into lot 30, and we would just have this expanse of impervious area. So that was the concern that was brought up, and through collaborating and discussing it in the meeting, we came up with the idea that we should, we have the ability to encumber the land, so let's provide that 10-foot landscape easement. And so that is what we have here, which really projects out our expectations and ensures that, in fact, this will not, become connected impervious area, but that this area will be planted and landscaped and help break up the overall impervious there. One of the comments was, and I'll get into this later, but why is the transformer at this location? And the transformer will certainly be screened with additional vegetation and landscaping. It is located here because it's not only serving the Crown lot, but it's also serving the future lot 30 lot. And it does fall within that utility easement. So the curb cut is located at the approved curb cut location. The private way provides both access for the vehicular users of the Crown site, for the office, for the for the office, sales, service, and demonstrations that they will have periodically. And then we're separating out the truck traffic really for safety reasons. The vehicles will come in to the center or to the front, and then the truck traffic will remain to the rear and go into the loading dock area. There is ample, there's already seating and bike parking that is located within the pavilion. We have provided this proposed direct access, the sidewalk that'll connect into the Innovation Way sidewalk, and then provide direct access to our front entrance at Crown. Overall, we are proposing 40 parking spaces with 57 future parking spaces. We believe that's striking the right balance between the office workers and the proposed, when they do have demonstrations, to allow the right amount of parking for the site. Regarding lighting, the mounting height of light fixtures, we're proposing to be in scale with the adjacent buildings and access drives. In general, we are proposing that here's where the two street lights will be located, and we are proposing that those lights be 25 feet tall, which is allowed within the ordinance. The building heights were originally, in what was submitted, they're called out at 28 feet. However, we agree that those also should be limited to 25 feet in height, which will really align the lights with the top of the upper windows to maintain that rhythm. The lights, we are proposing 4,000 Kelvin, which is similar to other recently approved projects such as Downs self-storage, use that same lighting levels. Aceto Landscaping has worked on all corners of the intersection, has provided a coordinated landscape plan that will really enhance the intersection. As you can see here, this is the proposed landscape plan developed by Aceto, and Margot is also here and can speak to many of these elements. With regards to utilities, they have been designed in accordance with the respective utility companies' requirements. We have received the Portland Water District approval letter, and we go before the Sanitation District on this Thursday for approval. As mentioned, the transformer has been located between lots 30 and the Crown lot to serve both lots. With jumping back to the drainage easement, overall, the stormwater management plan has been designed in accordance with the town standards and as well as the Innovation Way requirements. Furthermore, we remain below the 80% impervious requirements associated with the Innovation Way. Moving on, Margot created this planting diagram today, which really further highlights how the easterly face of the building will be viewed from Center Street. So again, we have the robust evergreens, we have the 50% fenestration wrapping around the edge. We have more proposed evergreens, the existing vegetation within the wetlands that will be preserved, where there was a gap in that and in the vegetation. Margot also provided additional evergreens, and then once again the existing vegetation that will be preserved. So again, really just looking to strike that balance. With regards to the elevation, so the uppermost elevation that you can see here is the north elevation that directly faces Center Street. You have the front grand front entrance, and of course the fenestration requirements are for just the first 10 feet of building height, but the fenestration doesn't end there. It continues up, and you can see the various windows, as well as the just on the front corner, the glass kern wall system that will be designed. So to the east, so the east here faces lot 52, lot 51, 52. That'll be next on the agenda, and the wetlands. The south is the rear of the building. Oops. And the west faces Innovation Way as well as the private drive. So and here are the fenestration requirements that were submitted as part of the application. So happy to answer anything further in detail. Again, we do have the full team here before us tonight. So we really appreciate the board and staff's comments and believe this has really led to a balanced and thoughtful design. We are here before you tonight for final approval. And with that, I'd be happy to turn it back over for any board comments. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, appreciate it. We do have an opportunity for public comment on this item. If you're here in attendance and would like to speak, please use the raise my hand feature.
Nick, I'll just point out that everyone who's at the meeting is up as a panelist. There are no other attendees.
I did notice that. All right. Thank you. So for board, Rachel, would you like to start off?
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to note something that has not been mentioned. And that is, as I was examining the floor plans, I noticed that you have a lactation room. And that is the very first time that I have seen that amenity in a building that's come in actually ever. I think, as far as Scarborough is concerned. So I'd like to applaud both the developer and the owners of Crown Lift for understanding the needs of women and women employees. So I wrote a comment on my copy of the plans that simply said "yay." So that's very nice to see. Appreciate it. I am glad you added the extra, in terms of landscaping, that you added the extra two white pines down near the rear of the building. I had circled that area. Yes, correct, right there. This is also about the first time that I've seen white pines on a landscape design, but I think that's a very appropriate a use of that tree. They're gonna hit 50 or 60 feet, if not more, by the time they're mature, and that really is going to do a lot to soften the bulk of the building. And actually, because they're there, I don't have a lot of concerns about the position of the building in terms of fenestration. I think selecting those was a very good idea, so that they can be viewed from Center Street. I did have a thought that if there was possible places here and there to do some understory plantings, that might also soften it and soften that area until the trees are tall enough. I think you have sufficiently, let's use the term disguise, the front parking lot by eliminating those 6 spaces and adding the berms, that I'm less concerned about the parking in front. I like what you've done in general with the building. You've been responsive to what we've had. I had just had the notion as I was looking at the way the building was oriented and was thinking for myself, if this had come first in the Center Street Innovation Crossroads, might we have started to wonder about the rest of the buildings coming along also having this sort of different relationship to what's really the center of the whole innovation district. But since the other buildings are already being built, I've put that aside, and I'm happy with the way that you've thought of this. I think it provides some interest, a lot of good interest to that center area. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Rick Meinking.
Yes, I like the look of the building, and actually I'm a fan of less windows when they're not needed, because they're nothing more than a hole in the envelope in which nice conditioned air can leave. But actually, I think this is well crafted and designed. I guess the focus of my comments revolve around the lighting, because this is a super lit up block. I mean, you have an average of 2.38 candle watts in the parking area. That definitely exceeds by quite a bit the IES standards, and was wondering, why so bright? And the fact that you're using 400K, you can't get dark sky certification. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use 4,000K. You just have to make darn sure they cut off at the top. But maybe you can shed some information on why you want to go with the height of those at 25 feet versus 20 that is required for the site plan, and why so bright?
Would you like me to address that now?
Yeah, if you could.
Yep. Okay. Well, I think why so bright? We might have a bit of a case of lighting salesmen going on, and I think some of that could certainly be dialed back as far as the amount and brightness. when it comes to the photometric plan that way. With regards to the, if we were to reduce some of the lighting, it does go hand in hand with the height and the elevation that they're mounted at, which does align with this upper. If you can see that the 25 feet does align nicely with the upper windows, and so we would be dropping them from 28 down to that 25 foot height, and that's really the keeping the rhythm of window light.
Yeah, I can also just add to that, Will. The wall mounted, I believe, and Tom's also on the on the video, is in part sort of an architectural feature, that they incorporate the lighting right above the window. So and they are full cutoff. So if there's concerns about kind of distance or intensity, we certainly can look at that. We don't want it to light more than it needs, but architecturally that location was chosen because that's relates to their program in other locations. The two freestanding lights, which I think the height kind of limit really typically regulates, is the pole height. We tried to do fewer poles, but a little bit higher versus adding another pole, and put them at those two locations. They're kind of the two intersections, if you will, on the shared drive. And they will provide some kind of modest utility for kind of access for lot 30 as well. But we don't need to kind of overlight the site, and that wasn't the intent.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, yeah, you're putting the lights on the building and not having to have pole lights in the parking lot by this configuration, but it does bring a little bit of a wider light to that whole area, and I don't believe there's any 400K in any of that other on the other development. So I'm just wondering if maybe you could take a look at the option of doing a 3000K. I get not having to put pole lights in the parking lot, but they also make a great place to put an EV charger if you've got a pole light and you've got a chance to run some conduit there to do those poles. So I'm just offering that as a suggestion, and maybe come back with more consistent fixtures and color renditions that you've been using throughout the innovation district thus far. But I gotta say, I really do like the building and the curtain, the window curtain that you have on the where you're going to get viewed the most. The other comment I just have is there going to be any systems or anything up on the roof that would be seen from one of the roadways? And what I mean is rooftop units or anything like that. Because I'd be interested in making sure that they were, adequately covered or encased so that it was attractive and not just, a piece of metal that's going to start getting rusty.
I don't believe so. I don't think there's any rooftop mechanicals. Tom, can you speak to that?
Hello, everybody. Tom Perkins here with Derigo Architectural. We do have one rooftop unit, as well as the usual things that come out of a roof, ventilation, fans. They are fairly low profile. I mean, we're not conditioning a lot of space in here, so given that the eave height and fairly flat roof, I'm not sure that you'd actually even notice them from road level looking across. To answer your question, Rick, on the lighting, we surely could look at a warmer light tone. I think that's a good idea. And then and agree, we don't need to light this thing up like Logan Airport. We can dim that down a little bit, but make it appropriate for the architectural intent that we'd like for those wall mounted fixtures especially, and then obviously the safety of the folks using the parking lot after dark.
Thanks for that, Tom. So let me just, in the warehouse spaces, you're not going to have any conditioned it's going to be unconditioned?
Yep, they use, we're using a thermocycler heating system in there with some large destratification fans and screen inserts on the
Aren't
large.
those known as big ass fans?
They are, they are. They also, Crown standard is screen door inserts in their overhead doors. So summertime, we can use some fresh air, and the de-strat fans condition the space nicely.
Okay. Again, I think it's a nice addition to the innovation district, and I'm sure as time goes on, some of these concerns that have been raised in the staff comments will be addressed. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Rick. Jennifer.
I don't necessarily have a whole lot else to add. Hold on, let me just check my notes before I say that. No, mostly anything that I had has generally been covered. Other than I just wanted to say, actually, if you could just flip back to the last graphic that you had. Yeah. In addition to appreciating the thought behind sort of landscaping on this parcel overall, particularly out towards the front corner where, you know, closest to the intersection and the berming and things like that. I just thought this graphic was very helpful in picturing how this, you know, the scaling here, and also appreciated the nod to, you know, working with and taking advantage really of the existing vegetation that you have kind of on the side of this building. So that wasn't necessarily something that struck me until I saw this graphic. So I appreciate both aspects of that. And I just, the only other thing I guess I would add is I don't see any issue with the reduction in or the double stacked parking, sorry, out towards the front of the building. But again, just appreciate the additional attempts there to create the buffer between that and the roadway by berming and landscaping. So I'm looking forward to seeing this when it's done. I think it's going to look good.
Thanks, Jen. Rick Duperi.
Yeah, I don't have anything much to add. I would like to say I do like the building. You did a lot of, looks really nice for a big metal building. I think it's very pleasing to the eye, and I look forward to it being part of Scarborough. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Rick. Roger Beely.
Okay, I think you did an excellent job explaining the landscaping, you know, the views from both of Innovation Way as well as Center Street. I think it's going to look very nice. I have a question on one of yours on the south, no, the Center Street screen that you had up where you showed the pine trees. That one there. It appears that when you go around the corner to the south side of the building, are there trees there already?
Yep. So you can kind of, if you picture this image, and then I flip back to the south.
Yeah.
And maybe I didn't do a good job explaining this, but this this bubble line type that you can see here, that's
Yes.
the existing tree line surrounding this wetland pocket. And so that's kind of where you see the push pull, where we have the two evergreens here, where you have a gap in a allowable space within the wetlands. And then we have this wetland finger that gets closer to the building, so we don't have evergreens there. And then once again, we pick up the evergreen. So that's if you picture that rhythm. And then on this elevation that Margot developed, we once again have the existing trees, the two evergreens, the existing trees, two evergreens. So we're really looking to supplement that existing buffer with additional trees and plantings that way.
No, I think that looks good. I was just wondering about the south side.
The south side.
Yeah, the side that's going to be facing lot 51, where you're going to have the additional parking. What's there now? Are there trees or is it just
No,
scrub?
it's graded. It's
just all graded right now?
graded for construction.
Okay, so, and you have no plans to put in any kind of, any plantings or trees or anything there along that? Because that's going to be facing lot 51. Yeah.
I can flip to the next agenda item.
I was just
Let me
wondering.
double check real quick. So we do have some proposed plantings along that southern edge. It shows up on lot 51 here.
Oh, okay, okay.
And not on the bottom portion of the south portion of Crown.
Okay, and all right, that's fine. I just have a question and clarification on the lighting. I'm not an expert like Rick is, but the lamp poles, according to our guidance, ordinance, should only be 20 feet high. And you've got those are going to be, you've got two of those right in the on the west side of the building. Now, is there any reason they can't be 20 feet high instead of 20? I think you're going to have them 20, 25 feet.
I mean it.
And the ones mounted on the building are going to be 28 feet.
The ones mounted on the building would be 25 feet. So I was actually reading directly from the code in my presentation where and maybe I don't know if Jamel is able to jump in here as well, but let me. The code does address this.
It suggests 20 feet, but allows up to 25, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It says along driveways or access ways shall not exceed 25 feet.
Yeah.
But it suggests, so our interpretation is that along this shared and private drive is where we have those two poles that are at 25 feet versus 20.
Okay, and it just seemed to me, listening to the previous conversation, that if there's too much light, if you lowered everything, all the fixtures, you would reduce the amount of light, but maybe that's not true. What about lighting? Maybe this is a question for Dan. Will there be some sort of lighting out on Innovation? There'll be lighting right at that intersection, won't there, Dan?
There is, I believe, yes. And there's lighting also down Center Street, kind of in front of the DPR site. But we tried to be somewhat sparing on lighting, street lighting, on Innovation as well. So I think as a condition of approval, we're pleased to kind of look at the lighting and reduce the overall lighting, as well as the intensity, so that it's meeting the needs of the site, but not overkill. I'm happy to do that.
And I just want to, is staff satisfied with the explanation for the electrical transformer? Its location?
I don't know if you guys want me to jump in or if Angela's ready.
I'm asking staff.
I guess my only question would be, just at that location, do you see that there might be any conflict with winter operations or anything like that, where it's sort of at the end of that road? That was really the only thing I saw. Certainly, I would defer. Angela probably has more experience on the site ground with them, but.
that's a good question, Jay. I can jump in and so one of the comments that Angela actually had at the staff meeting was, so when you're snow plowing, the majority of your snow is being pushed forward, and so that there would be a fair amount of stacking of snow at the end of the private way. And so these round circles that you can see here are boulders at the end of the road, to protect the wetland buffer here. And so that's where the majority of the snow will be pushed down to the end and then pushed towards the future parking lot area. So they'll come in and they'll plow, they'll windrow some over to the side, but the vast majority they'll push forward. As far as transformers, so you come in with your primary to your transformer, then you come off with your secondaries, and you're always trying to have the transformer within the center of your site because of just how expensive those secondaries can be as they go off to the building.
I guess my only thing to add was I didn't know how far along you are even with CMP, so they can obviously dictate where that gets placed down the road, and it's a lot of times a field change. So I don't know how concrete the location is in any site plan. Is that, how far have you guys had conversations with CMP?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And we'll continue on with CMP, but yes, we've engaged right off the bat with them and holistically as well, for the whole innovation district.
I just want to, if I could just add to that point, just to sort of, so planning board members appreciate what Angela was just saying and what the applicant sort of deals with is CMP usually comes in late and last and dictates what happens. And so as much as we look at these things and talk about them, CMP can often put their thumb down or however you want to say it. And as Angela said, as staff, we will typically understand what happened and then work as a field change on those type of things. So just sort of some behind the scenes stuff for planning board members to appreciate some of the nuance that happens after these meetings. I'm sorry, Dan, you were saying?
I was saying that Tom at this point talks to CMP daily, so we're trying to.
And that's where it's helpful to get from the board what the primary focus is. Like if there's certain things that are more important and prioritizing those, so that when we are doing some field changes or looking at relocating these things in the field, I can at least use that knowledge to kind of help direct a little bit, whereas as we can.
With regards to this transformer location, this is Tom again, specific, this is definitely the location that CMP agrees it can go. There may be a question if we may need an intermediate splice box between the poles on the other side, but at this point they're satisfied with our location and the run length to the primary side, but nothing that would visibly change the appearance of things out there.
Okay, so we're basically satisfied with the status quo at the moment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just a couple of more loose ends. I guess this is directed more towards Angela. Are you guys as staff satisfied with that the applicant has addressed the issues raised by Woodard and Curran?
Well, I have to pull that back up. I'm not remembering exactly what their final comments were.
It's related to the scorecard, right?
Oh, with the stormwater scorecard.
That was traffic. The scorecard was traffic, wasn't it?
And stormwater, two different.
There's also a stormwater one, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what I remember, Angela, just to help you out.
Okay. So my understanding is there's an amendment going through, and that's where the scorecard comes from. For like we do for traffic, we'll be having one for stormwater. And my understanding is that hasn't been fully approved through DEP. Maybe you could give us an update on that, Dan, where that sits.
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks, Angela. We're close with getting the amendment from DEP, and that actually relates to different lots in the Innovation District. The board may remember the in-cube lots at the end of Dynamic Drive on 2 of those sites proposed a bit additional impervious area. And as part of that approval, we would track the overall impervious area of each lot, because there's a certain amount of capacity the stormwater pond that's already in place can take beyond the 80% coverage each lot is currently allowed. So we're pleased to add every site to that scorecard. We just don't know exactly how to structure it yet because we haven't gotten that DEP approval. So, but we're happy to do that for Crown once we have that permit in place.
And this site is well below the 80% threshold.
Correct, right.
So
Okay.
once that gets approved through DEP, there'll be some backtracking. So we'll have to play catch up, I guess, with stormwater, just the way we've kind of gone along with every lot with traffic. They're going to have to kind of backpedal a little and try to catch up and get that up to date so that we can move forward with it. So I guess, as he's saying, it doesn't necessarily affect this lot tonight, but it'll be something that you'll hear staff talk about continuously from moving forward.
Okay, and I guess along the same lines, I'm looking at Bill Bray's comments. Does the applicant have any, can he address what Bill Bray has brought up about the traffic count?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that. So Randy Dunn, our traffic consultant, used that particular ITE code because it matched the activity in Crown, including the employees and the visitation to the site. But we're pleased to provide additional information to make sure Bill's comfortable with that. And it basically affects the impact fee due from the site. So we believe it's the right classification, but we can review that with Bill Bray.
Okay.
Staff to make sure they're comfortable with it.
Okay, and the last things, I guess, I heard you mention you were hoping to get final approval, but I'm not sure, because you're gonna need apparently at least two waiver requests, one for parking and one for the driveway width. So I don't know how you want to handle that, Nick.
Thanks, Roger. Yeah, I think the board members should just. I didn't hear any other concern about the waiver requests. I guess I could open that up to the rest of the board as if they did have concerns about the requests. I assume it was okay because nobody picked up on it. But again, Roger, thanks for pointing it out.
And the last thing on the picture that's on the screen right now, I was just kind of curious. It looks like it's sort of the grass there in the inland, the island. Is that just going to be kind of wild grass growing there, or doesn't look like it's going to be mowed or landscaped or anything like that?
There is, hi, I can speak to that, Margot. The first few feet there below the multi-stem trees, the multi-stem trees that are closest to the street are already there towards the shade structure at the corner there, where the mailboxes are. And there are grasses that are below there. So we're just kind of carrying those down to that walkway. So there is grass like behind those trees. So there will be just some like turf behind, like where the taller deciduous trees are. So
like a beach grass kind of edging, wouldn't you say, Margot? Along the sidewalk?
Yeah. So yeah, there's probably like 8 feet of those ornamental grasses along the sidewalk, kind of defining the edge of the sidewalk. And then when we get up into the berms, it's shrub material. And then there's a few feet of turf. I'm pointing, but that doesn't help.
Just tell me where to go.
Between the berms and the edge of pavement there's a few feet of space for turf, like for snow storage and just offset from the shrubs.
Okay.
Yep.
I promise this is my last question. On the front of your building, I'm looking at your plan A204. But on the front of the building, you've got these three, are those, what are those things? Those three, they almost look like bullets. Do you know what I mean?
Are they associated with the canopy, Roger? Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are architectural features that Crown has on a number of their locations. Tom, you probably can describe them better than I.
Certainly, in great observation. These are this canopy, cantilever canopy, the orange tops. It's a little bit of a play on, fork truck lifting up a platform. Is sort of the idea there. The base will be wrapped in a metal panel that matches the darker metal panel that we're going to have on the building, and then those upper struts are just pipe steel, painted orange with some ornamental gusset arms that come down and hold up the end of the canopy, and just kind of gives it a little bit of an industrial chic entrance coming in.
Okay.
Very much a crown trademark, if you will. Not so much something that we dreamed up over here.
Okay. I think, and I guess the last thing is the parking, I have no problem with the parking situation. So I'll relinquish my time right now.
Thanks, Roger. Rachel?
Yeah, I think I may have found what Roger was looking for in the Woodard and Curran memo, and that is under the Section 4 Performance and Design Standards, the parking areas. Per the parking area standards, paved surfaces of parking areas shall be separated from buildings by a minimum of 5 feet of landscaping and a 5-foot walkway. Currently, it does not appear that the landscaping area meets the standard. And I think I have to agree that it doesn't.
So I don't know what they were using for a scale, but it is 5 feet from the edge of the building to the sidewalk. And then the sidewalk is also 5 feet in width.
Okay. Okay.
Happy to go on record with that.
All right. It just didn't look like it, but that's fine as long as
yeah,
that was mentioned there, and I had actually underlined that. So as long as it meets that, you're asserting that it meets that standards. It's the problem with the scale of the illustration. No, I'm fine, and I have no problem with the waivers.
Rachel. Russell.
Sorry about that. Had my mute button on. Nice project. I like I have to say, I commend the design team and the whole team here for the improvements that you made since the last time you were before the board. There's some very nice features that you've added here. They're thoughtful, they're balanced. I think this is sort of a, I don't know if it's the right term to say, sort of a showcase kind of a lot here, but it's going to be very noticeable for sure. And I think you've done a nice job addressing many of the elements here. You have some natural constraints, if you will, with the lot, and I think you've done a very nice job utilizing the features that are there, the natural features that are there, obviously the needs of your client for their business. I'm not an expert by any means on lighting, and I have to just echo what Rick said. If you can address the safety aspect and illumination of the parking areas and the pedestrian ways with sort of softer lighting, I'm in favor of that personally. I think that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that you took out those parking spaces in the front there and bermed and added some additional plantings. I think that's great. I really don't have much to add. I'm pretty pleased, and I guess I'm a little bit like somebody else said. It'll be a neat project to see built. That's all I have.
Thank you, Russell. I don't have a whole lot else to add to this. I think everyone did a nice job covering it.
Nick, can I add one thing?
You may, Angela.
Going back one more time, I think to Woodard and Kern, there is a few things in there that I think still needs to be addressed. So I think if we're heading in the direction of a condition of approval, I just want to make sure that they get addressed. One of the standards talks about our stormwater standard about, 210, 25-year storm events, things like that, which was not all completed in this application. Things that I think won't change the ultimate outcome, but it would be nice to be able to check all those boxes and make sure we can say that it's kind of met everything. So I just wanted to point that out, that I think that's still valid to still address the Woodard and Kern comments.
Jay, in our conditional approval, do we have that being addressed in there? We do. Thank you.
And we have run those but since we received the comments on Friday, we did run those calcs and we can confirm the storm drain can facilitate the 210 25-year storm event. We provided up to the 10-year, but it will also convey the 25-year.
Thanks. All right, Jay, if you could share your screen, please. All right.
I assume you're seeing it right now?
I can.
All
right. I move to approve the site plan project titled Innovation District Lots 31 and 50 as depicted on the plan set prepared by Acorn Engineering, Inc., dated 2/22/21 with the following findings, waivers, and conditions. Findings: the applicant is proposing to construct a 40,000 plus or minus square foot facility that will consist of office space, sales, service, demonstration, and delivery, and light assembly of forklifts, lift trucks, and associated components and accessories. The proposal also includes landscaping provisions, parking, and pedestrian amenities. Project is located on Lot 31 of the Innovation District. Subdivision is within the Crossroads Plan Development CPD zoning district. Planning Board has reviewed the application and supporting documentation, finds that the proposed design of the site plan adequately addresses the site plan review, zoning ordinance, and the Innovation District regulating plan requirements for site utilization, layout, access, internal vehicular movement, parking, pedestrian ways, landscaping, stormwater management, lighting, architecture, signage, utilities, and storage. Waivers: 1, permit the proposed driveway separation of 20 feet. 2, permit the proposed parking aisle width of 24 feet. Conditions: 1, Planning Board has determined that the particular building can be occupied or use carried on with fewer parking spaces than required and has reduced the requirements for off-street parking in accordance with section 11.c in the zoning ordinance. Prior to any change of use and or tenant on the site, the applicant shall provide written notice to the planning department for staff to determine whether the changes should be reviewed by the planning board. 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall revise the plan set to include: A, additional planting and landscaping provisions within the 10-foot buffer strip along Center Street as discussed with the planning board. B, additional planting and landscaping provisions adjacent to the eastern building elevation as noted in the staff review memo dated 3/15/21. C, a plan note identifying that any additions to the eastern building elevation will require reconsideration of the fenestration requirements by the board based on orientation and visual character as viewed from the public way. D, include plantings and landscaping provisions within the proposed landscape on lot 30 to ensure adequate buffering and separation of the users. E, provide screening and buffering details for the proposed transformer pad that is intended to serve both lots 30 and 31. F, the access easement shall be depicted as a separate line weight as the other easements in the immediate area as noted in the staff review memo dated 3/15/21. An inset of this area should be considered to help clarify the proposed overlapping easements. G, The bicycle pedestrian lanes along the site driveway shall include striped hashes and bicycle pavement markings. H, a bike rack adjacent to the front entrance to the building. I, additional planting and buffering provisions along the site's southerly property line. J, identify and label the 30-foot wide easement within the southern portion of the site. K, modify the photometrics plan to minimize intensity of the light's levels, maximum of 3,000 lumens, and to ensure no lighting spillover into abutting properties. L, modify the mounting of the height of the light fixtures as noted in the staff review memo dated 3/15/21. M, ensure the building mounted light fixtures are full cutoff. N, a plan note referring to the most recently recorded subdivision plan for the Innovation District subdivision. This shall be reviewed and approved by the planning department. 3, prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall A, pay the traffic impact fees. B, provide approval from the Portland Water District. C, provide approval from the Scarborough Sanitary District. D, address the remaining review comments in the civil peer review memo from Woodard and Curran dated 11/12/20. E, address the remaining review comments in the traffic peer review memo from Traffic Solutions dated 11/11/20. F, provide an auto turn simulation for tractor trailer trucks maneuvering in and out of the loading dock area. G, submit the overall Innovation District subdivision stormwater tracking scorecard. H, identify the proposed materials, colors, and features on the building elevations. I, coordinate with the police department in regards to addressing for the proposed building. This shall be reviewed and approved by the planning department. 4, prior to the issuance of a sign permit, the applicant shall provide a final signage plan. This shall be reviewed and approved by the planning department. 5, prior to the start of construction, a pre-construction meeting is required. The meeting shall include appropriate town staff, the developer, and their site contractor, and is to be coordinated through the planning department. 6, prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy, a copy of the modified Maine DOT traffic movement permit shall be submitted to the planning department. Is that all of them, Jay?
That is all.
Thank you, sir. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
In a couple seconds. Any discussion?
Nick,
Yes.
2 things. On the auto turn simulation, I think they provided one, if I'm not mistaken. It's AT-3.
I think that was for a fire truck, actually. That's what I recall.
Oh, that's for, okay.
Yeah, they were asking for a tractor trailer truck, right?
Correct. I don't know if Will or Dan want to correct me, but I believe it was a fire truck.
We're happy to provide it. Again, Will's team has done a lot of auto turns to lay out this site, so I'm sure they have it handy.
All right, Roger, what was number 2 on there?
The other one was on the landscaping on the southern. That's what I discussed with the applicant, and they pointed to lot 51, where there's going to be landscaping there. Right now, there's no plans for landscaping on the southern property line on this site, as far as I can tell. And I'm okay with that, as long as there's going to be landscaping on the other, on lot 51.
I think I understand that we have another lot coming in right now after this, but if we really feel that there should be some sort of buffering there, it should be on the property that we're discussing. Because now we're relying on the neighbor to maintain a buffering rather than the applicant to maintain a buffering.
Well, right now, I don't believe there is any.
I'm okay with that language staying and letting the applicant kind of work through that with staff. Any other opinions?
Yeah, I agree with you, Nick.
Is the language sufficient as proposed to cover that?
Which number was it again, or letter?
I believe it's I.
Additional planting and buffering provisions along the site's southerly property line. Yeah, I think between staff and the applicant, they can probably get some sort of measure in there. Any other thoughts on that? All right, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Excuse me, Chair. Just a comment, the Woodard and Curran and Traffic Solutions memos. Those are the incorrect dates. just wanted to highlight those dates. The Traffic Solutions is dated March 4th, 2021, and Woodard and Curran is March 11th, 2021.
Thank you.
Could someone repeat those dates for me?
Yep. Woodard and Curran is March 11th, 2021. And Traffic Solutions is March 4th, 2021.
All right. We're going to consider that a friendly amendment. I think so. All right. All right. I'll not seeing any further discussion. I'll call the roll. Rachel Hendrickson.
Yes.
Roger Beely.
Yes.
Jennifer Ladd.
Yes.
Rick Meinking.
Yes.
Nick McGee. Yes. Congratulations. On to the next door neighbor. TPR LLC requests a site plan review for lot 51 within the Innovation District subdivision at the Downs, Assessor's Map U53, lot 51. Jamel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you know, this lot's located just south of lot 31 within the Innovation District subdivision. The applicant's proposing to construct a 30,000 square foot building that will consist of office and light industrial type uses within 3 different tenant spaces. So the site plan review ordinance requires no more than 1 full service driveway, except when an additional driveway must be provided to prevent traffic hazards or congestion. So the applicant has indicated that the northerly driveway will be utilized for truck traffic entering and exiting onto Center Street. The design of this driveway results in a very wide curb cut along Center Street, and staff and the town's traffic consultant have recommended that the applicant include an auto turn simulation with future submissions for tractor or trailer trucks that are anticipated to utilize the driveway. This information will help to inform if the proposed width and radius of the driveway is absolutely necessary. Staff has also noted that the applicant is proposing modifications of the existing traffic island within the Center Street right-of-way, which the applicant actually does not have control of. These modifications need to be taken up under a separate application if desired, as they are associated with the existing traffic calming design features to help transition from the light industrial area to the next phase of development within the Downs. Staff has also recommended that the applicant provide a rendering of how the site will look when traveling southbound along Center Street to ensure the proposed loading docks and overhead doors are adequately screened. Another suggestion would be for the applicant to consider overhead doors that are more coordinated with the building design. And given that the lot is considered a front lot within the Innovation District regulating plan, the project does require a 10-foot wide landscape buffer to help separate the development from the street and enhance the visual environment. So staff has recommended the applicant provide additional plantings of varying heights between the proposed building and Center Street to meet this standard. And the applicant's also proposing to provide fewer parking spaces for the project than required by the zoning ordinance. So the board should provide direction this evening on whether the proposed project can be carried on and use can be carried on with the proposed reduction in spaces. Turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamel. Dan, Will, just kicking it off.
Nick, I'll start and then I'll turn over to Will. So Dan Bacon here on behalf of DPR LLC. In this case, Will is on the team and Ryan Senator is our architect working on this project. This is the same team who actually generated the design for the site across the street, the Dukas construction site that's well underway with construction right now and is looking good. And this team has a good sense for obviously the aesthetics of that site and how to relate this site to it. So this DPR development project is, the partners on it include Dick and Peter Mishu, who are members of the overall development team for the Downs. And it's a specific investment property that will be leased. So it's being designed as a light industrial building to provide space for 3 tenants, it could be 2 tenants, it could be one larger tenant in a 30,000 square foot building. So it's a building that's being designed to be attractive and also to be flexible and fit the site really well in terms of layout and flexibility. So as you can see, there's a kind of a parking side to the building. There's a loading side to the building. So it's being designed in a way that's really dependent on and based on the building's kind of orientation to the street, and having more of a pedestrian side of the building that's scaled with a curb cut and parking for people to kind of enter the building, to visit the building. And then it's being designed on the other side, on the north side, to be really the truck side of the building, and to focus truck activity, loading, the more utilitarian side of the building to the north. So it's been kind of quite deliberate in terms of that approach. We think it works really well for this site, given the geometry of the lot that we just created through the subdivision amendment. And like I said, there isn't a known end user yet, but there's a lot of interest in Innovation District for kind of more flex, light industrial type space that would have kind of open floor plans, some office component. So it could be a light manufacturer, could be light industrial. It could be kind of R&D type activity within this building. And we're already getting a significant amount of interest just based on kind of being at this stage in the process. And so with that kind of introduction around the goals for the building, I'm going to have Will and Ryan talk through the details.
Great, thank you, Dan. Members of the board, once again, my name is Will Savage from Acorn Engineering. Here with me tonight is Peter Heil, who is the project manager on both the prior agenda item as well as tonight for DPR. So just to, as Dan mentioned, to put the project into context here, the proposed lot merging of lots 51 and 52 is directly across from lot 53, which is Dukas Construction that Ryan and I also worked on. Both Dukas Construction as well as this proposed building are two-story plus buildings. Moving on, we're on more the southern end here of Center Street. So here is our proposed site plan for a 30,000 square foot office and light industrial building with 2 proposed submerged loading docks and 3 overhead doors, 1 to the rear and 2 closer to the front. Similar to other developments within the Downs Innovation District, special consideration was paid once again to separate the truck traffic from the vehicular traffic. And not just any truck traffic, but tractor trailer traffic. This was done for the following reasons: to eliminate tractor trailers from having to drive through the parking lots, and so having to have tractor trailers come in and drive through a parking lot, and the potential safety hazards that poses. Furthermore, to minimize impervious area by right sizing the drive aisle for the vehicular use and type. If we were hypothetically to bring truck traffic through, this could not be a 24-foot or a 25-foot wide drive aisle. You'd have to further widen that out, and it would be more appropriate at 30 feet wide. So, it just increases the overall impervious area that you need on site to create that, to have tractor trailers driving through parked cars. It also minimizes congestion. It allows for vehicles and office users to freely enter and exit the site. And same with the tractor trailers. This this northerly entrance would be dedicated to the tractor trailer. So they take a little bit more time to get up to speed. They need those sight lines and to so that they can pull out into the lane, and not have vehicles parked behind them eagerly waiting to get home. So we have also aligned the southerly entrance to be directly across from Dukas Construction. So as you may remember, it was almost a year ago this time that we were before you for Dukas Construction. And for Dukas, it was more geared towards the fire truck turning in and out to the Dukas entrance. But as part of that site plan approval, we did also require modifications to the southerly end here of the island. So that was proposed during the site plan process and then followed up later on with the subdivision amendment associated with that center island change. So once again, on February 12th of this year, we had a very beneficial meeting with town staff. It was actually back-to-back meeting following the Crown meeting, and we reviewed the project, and notable changes that came out of that meeting included enhancing the existing wooded buffer. So once again, I'll zoom in here. This dark clouded line that you can see here represents the existing wooded buffer adjacent to the wetland, and the staff's comment was, where it was appropriate and where we had the ability to pull away the edge of the pavement to provide additional opportunities for landscaping. And so that's what we did. This is it still is a very tight site for truck maneuvering. And I have a graphic that depicts that. So we were able to pull away the edge of pavement where we could. And we focused, along this easterly edge so that we could get a more robust planting plan in there to supplement the existing tree buffer that we have. We also added the addition of landscaped coming out of that meeting. When we went into the meeting, we didn't have any of these intermediate landscaped islands, and the staff requested additional landscaping within the parking field, and so we did that. And then there was also the comment that we had we didn't have a surplus of parking, but did we need to show all of the parking at this time? And so we went through and highlighted a number of parking spaces at the time they were proposed, and we moved those to future potential parking spaces. So we have the 3 spaces here, I believe an additional 9, and then we have some additional opportunities, just repurposing proposed impervious area for parking spaces should they be needed in the future. So once again, the utilities have been designed in accordance with the respective utility companies' requirements. We've had extensive coordination with CMP, and we do have a transformer on site now. When we submitted, we were not showing a transformer, so that was a good catch by staff in their notes. We have received Portland Water District approval, and once again, we go before the Sanitation District for approval on this Thursday. A bit of the same story when it comes to lighting. The ordinance does, once again, they're around 25, 28, and the ordinance allows it to go up to 25 for drive aisles, but we'd like to revisit the photometric and I think to Rick's points, to, if we can look at bringing it from 4,000 Kelvin down to 3,000, those type of straightforward approaches. And we've also worked with the Acetos Landscape, has also worked on this design and provides that continuity. We have the proposed 10-foot buffer easement to the front that's been heavily landscaped. We are proposing 73 parking spaces with 15 future spaces. Here we have the proposed auto turn for the tractor trailers coming into the site. I'll just zoom in on this area, and this really highlights why the site is designed the way it is. So if you imagine a tractor trailer coming southbound, swinging into the site, this line right here represents its front wheel, and then this line to the north represents its rear wheels. And so that is why we have this 40-foot radius here. One idea, so the staff or the peer review comments or traffic comments, we're discussing a 25-foot radius, and presently it's a 40-foot radius. I think we would be open to, a lot of times when you have these truck radiuses, we could do a raised concrete island or a raised, essentially a raised concrete island. So what we would do is, it's probably hard to see that, but we could do that 25-foot radius, and then the inside of this curb could be concrete so that the rear wheels of the trucks can mount and drive over the concrete, but it further delineates the entrance for smaller commercial vehicles that way. So it's not quite as wide of an expanse. I'm sure you see these concrete aprons throughout southern Maine. So with that, so it shows the truck coming in, and then once again, you can see how the truck, when it pulls out, and why we need to scale back the center island within Center Street to provide that safe maneuvering in and out. So moving on to the next sheet. So here we have Acetos landscape plan where we have the robust planting within that 10-foot wide easement. Once again, we have a 5-foot wide landscape strip adjacent to the building, and then a 5-foot wide sidewalk before the parking area. And then moving on to here's the drainage easement, where overall the stormwater management plan has been designed in accordance with the town standards for the 210 25-year storm event innovation way requirements, and once again we remain below the allowed 80% impervious coverage. So with that, I will hand it over to Ryan to provide a quick rundown of the building.
Good evening, Ryan Senator here with RSA. We're happy to be back before you and with another successful project to be hopefully in the Downs. As Dan and Will had mentioned, this project is across from the Dukas site we designed last year. And what we wanted to do was design a building that's attractive and a visible building, but attractive by utilizing a lot of glazing, fenestration, some nice siding material dynamics, and really break down the scale of the facade. The program of the building is flexible, but we've kind of set it up to be divisible to 3 tenants if need be. So as you can see here, we have 3 entrances. There is some symmetry on this long elevation, which faces the parking lots for the southern side. And then we kind of differentiated the first story with a horizontal gray siding panel, which is kind of our accent siding, and then broke that up with punched window openings. Each entry has a architectural canopy with some nice brackets, and then a splash of color with the siding around each entry to give it a distinct look. And then above that, we're kind of highlighting the tenants with their own unique signage. The contrasting siding is a vertical siding. It's a white color, so it's nice and clean, kind of crisp and fresh. And we thought that kind of goes along with the Innovation District kind of theme. As we the elevation to the middle right here is the elevation facing the main street. And that, as you can see in the red, that's where we're highlighting the exceeding the 50% fenestration ratio. And that's counting everything, as you know, below 10 feet with our highlighted siding, kind of our architectural siding, and the glazing. And so we kind of broke this facade down with the two types of siding materials, giving it different shadow lines and texture and color. We think this will be a really attractive space with these nice high windows, letting light deep into the space, attracting some potential nice tenants. As we actually, if you pan to the left a little bit, the rear elevation again is very similar to the front. So again, try to create a nice attractive elevation if you pan down. And so this is the loading side. So kind of, again, using the differing siding materials and colors. We do have some person doors. We have some at grade loading doors, and then we have some loading dock height doors. The loading dock height doors, which you'll see in a plan, are kind of, and you saw in Will's Acorn's plan, are these kind of 45-degree angle bump outs, which ease in the trailer truck traffic direction. But as you can see, those are here. And again, differentiating those with siding. One of the comments we did see in the staff report was to maybe reassess. Oh, actually, if you want to go back, reassess the color of those overhead doors. And we actually agree with that comment and think that maybe if we maybe match those with the grayer siding material, they'll blend better with the elevation. So we're certainly open to that. And if you want to go down to the plan now. So here you can see the floor plan with the three potential tenant sizes. I think we have 6,000 in the front and then 12,000 in the rear. I mean, it's all flexible, so it could be 1, 2, or 3, but that's kind of the idea. And then, showing on kind of right now, we're showing it as just an open floor plan and with some plumbing cores in there. Trying to market this to a broad range of appeal, really, and offer some good options. As at the bottom of the page here, you can see the 3 person doors for entry and exiting. I think that's kind of an overview of the building itself, and we're certainly here to answer any questions. So thank you.
Thank you. We do have an opportunity for public comment, so I'll open it for public comment. If you are interested, please use the raise my hand feature. As there's no one in attendance in the public at this point, we will close public comment. Well, I'll just take a quick swing at this since I have the floor. I think there's on the good news front, I think it's an attractive looking building. I think you did a nice job with the way it appears. I suspect you probably won't have a whole lot of trouble finding tenants for this. I know there's a need out there in the commercial community for space flexible like this. Now, for my other thoughts, I think you have some challenges. One of them being the 2 entrance aspect to this. I mean, our ordinance is pretty clear about how you can get the second entrance, what kind of the threshold is for that. And then my other quick thought on this is, you do have other spaces available in Innovation District that I think you'd be working with a less tight site, perhaps. And so I don't know if its location on Center where we're starting to lose some of that traffic calming measures to accommodate for, an extra set of entryway is kind of concerning. So that's just my quick take on it. I'll just ask my board members to kind of comment. I think those are your challenges with this one. So Jennifer.
Great, thanks. Along those lines, correct me if I'm wrong, you do not have tenants for this building yet?
We have, we have interest in the building, but it's being built as a leased building. So it's difficult to lease a building until you're further along in the process. So we have a lot of interest considering the stage we're in.
Okay. So I guess my first question, and I am fully aware that the process from here forward is sort of iterative on both ends, both, how and what you are getting permitted through this board, but also what you're hearing about in terms of potential site needs from interested, potential leasees. I guess my question would be, sort of along to expand on Nick's comments, in the event that so say you had this permitted in this way, this was your design, but then you had a tenant come in who maybe didn't need large truck access or only needed a single unit access to the back of their space. I'm just curious how that would work, and I understand the approach to sort of go big, for lack of a better term, making this more attractive to a wider variety of vehicles. But that is just something that I was curious about, and I understand that moving those types of vehicles in that way requires a lot of paved space for sure. But I was just curious about how that might be affected by someone that didn't necessarily need that. That's one question. The second question is whether or not these turning movements are possible with trucks in the docks. If you looked at that, that was another question that I had, and I have a couple more, but if you want to.
Yeah, to address the trucks at the docks, yes, that we have analyzed the turning movements with trucks at the docks. We've done multiple design iterations, and this, utilizing the docks at a 45-degree angle was the most efficient layout to work with, some of these site constraints that you mentioned.
I can speak to the demand for the docks. So in working with our commercial brokers, having a loading dock or two, as well as drive-in doors, are the two highest needs for light industrial end users. So we've tried to design for kind of those to be possible for whether it's one tenant or, as you can see, up to three, while not necessarily designing for the largest vehicle. So Will's team is designed for sort of the mid-size trailer truck to try to be conservative with paved area and sort of having the truck design dominate the site, while also meeting the needs of most end users. And we've tried to balance the removal of a portion of the island with robust landscaping on both sides of the street and keeping this building close to the street like Dukas. So as much as an island creates traffic calming, having tight presentation to the street, so vertical walls to the street, is going to be just as effective in terms of traffic calming as an island in the center. So I think that helps overcome the removal of a portion of the island. We're also, with the next phase of the project, we're anticipating having sort of a similar island on the south side of these curb cuts here, to provide that transition to the rest of the project. So the plan had always been to have this island and then have a similar island, again geared for driveways so that you can get access to the sites, to compensate for any kind of reduction in the island here.
Did you look at any site options here with only the one driveway?
We did, and it was very awkward in terms of commingling the parking lot design, you know, car parking and loading. So it was, there was no, we have a number of different designs, and there was no kind of good way to separate the uses, or the different activities, the truck activity from the car activity. And it also drove like a more awkward building design, having sort of the long side of the building facing the street. And you created a much longer wall to the street, which we thought might be overbearing compared to Dukas. And so we felt having the short side of the building to the street complemented what's across the street and provided a better layout to have kind of a truck area and a car and people area. And you know, given the number of loading docks, et cetera, and the size of the building, this isn't going to be a distribution center. So in terms of like the truck activity in and out, it's going to be pretty low volume, just given the size of the building. So from a congestion standpoint, it's going to be, you know, a minimal movements in and out of that curb cut.
Okay, thanks. The other question I had, and maybe actually this might be a better, maybe staff could clarify, but the comment about extending the island 5 to 7 feet, did you just mean sort of putting a further nose on the island? I can't think of a better term, but basically so that the crosswalk cuts through the island instead of terminates at the island, or the island starts at the crosswalk. Am I understanding that right?
Correct. Yeah, that was actually a comment from our traffic peer reviewer.
Yeah, right.
The intent was to provide a safer place for pedestrians to cross the island.
Yeah.
I would just add to that this nose of the island, the southern end, this was the nose that was cut off so that we could have fire trucks enter into Dukas. So that was why previously this island did come down a little bit further, and that had to be modified as part of that site plan process.
I think the comment was actually to relocate the crosswalk so it lines up with the Dukas sidewalk that's along the building. That's how I.
Oh, gotcha.
That's
Well,
how I understand the comment.
This light pole base, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that light pole base has been set.
But yeah, the light's in.
So that's so we could push it up a little, but it's kind of faded back here. Can zoom in. Sorry about all the moving. So you see this, there's a light pole, a street light at this location.
Okay.
Yeah,
But we could.
I think even that little, I know it seems like a little amount, but I do think that sort of would help and would be in the spirit of the comment, which I thought was a good one. In addition to, let's see, yeah, so you said that this, obviously you'd already checked turning movements in and out of the Dukas site, but I just wanted to reiterate that, you know, it would be interesting to see, or helpful to see those similarly in and out of this proposed site at that corner as well, with or without the change. And I guess, you know, if for whatever reason, you know, there are other hurdles to that, you could potentially consider another like concrete apron there, so something visual but mountable if it's an issue for, fire trucks, for example, which in theory would be, only in and out of your site minimally, or hopefully never, I guess. But, certainly, in my opinion, that would be a secondary, a less great option than just the full island to protect the crosswalk. But other than that, those were the primary questions that I had. I agree with the comment mentioned earlier about considering a darker door color for those overhead doors. I think that would look good with the other materials that were shown for the backside of that building. And then the only other thing I noticed was that in our staff memo, it said that no waivers were listed, but it does look like you're proposing a 24-foot aisle, and then the fewer than the reduced parking spaces. Probably just something to think about for next time. I do appreciate the banking of parking, though, particularly if you don't know what your tenant makeup is going to be. I think that's that's all I have.
Thanks, Jennifer. Rachel?
There we go. I lost my mouse for a minute. Well, I guess I'm just going to go to a foundational question, and that is why on this lot? As I look at the rest of the lots in the whole innovation district, if you don't go with the front lot, you have flexibility. So, for instance, if you went with lot 16 and 17, you would be able, with a combination of two lots, you wouldn't have some of the agita around putting the 18-wheelers in there. I think you would have an easier way to develop a traffic flow. But if you're going to have it on this lot, I would say that you're going to have to be very, very careful with the traffic signage, because otherwise you're going to have people who are looking for this building, who see the first drive coming down center, see the first driveway, and in they go, and that gets them into the parking area for the trucks. You're going to have people deciding to circle the building to get out, and they're going to be going past the truck area again. So without good signage, you're going to lose some of the safety issues, the safety measures that you've taken by putting the trucks in one area and the parking in another area. So I can see people using both of these entrances without some good signage. The building itself is classic. I think you've paid attention to the front facade, the one facing Center Street. But I do think that the selection of the lot is driving some of the concerns that we have, and there might be other lots that would be more amenable to giving you the access that you need for the trucks and removing some of the requirements that you have with the front lot.
Thanks, Rachel.
I was going to respond to that and certainly agree with you on providing signage and customizing these driveway access points. In terms of lot selection, and these are the only lots that this end user owns. In the first two phases of this project, essentially most every lot is spoken for. So this isn't necessarily we get a choice in terms of which lots they want to own. This is the ones they've acquired. And from our kind of layout standpoint, we feel like they work quite well in terms of this division of activity on the site, and as a great building and a great site to kind of transition along the edge of the Innovation District, with the south side being quite attractive and kind of the office side of the site and of the building. And really kind of want to figure out what are kind of those design adjustments we can make to make it predictable and safe and usable for trucks. This isn't going to have a lot of movements in and out. It's just not a big enough building for that kind of volume. It's more about how to safely kind of move the trucks in and out of the site and do it in a controlled way from our perspective.
All right, thanks, Dan. Roger?
Is Rachel all done?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to operate under the assumption that this is the lot that this is going to be built on. And under those circumstances, I think the architecture of the building looks good. I think you've done a decent job with the facing Center Street. And I think the south side, I was going to ask Dan, I was kind of curious, what do you anticipate is going to be south of this building? I know that's another phase, but is that going to be housing, or is that going to be a mixture of commercial and housing, or what are you thinking?
Yep, Roger, we don't have that entirely programmed, certainly, and we don't have it permitted either through the town or DEP. But we've designed this building to be complementary of, like on the south side, the top elevation that you're looking at, complementary to a variety of kind of land uses. So we're having it read, closer to more like an office building, or a kind of a high-tech building, a light industrial building that you could have an office right next door, and it from our perspective, be compatible. You could have a mixed-use building, or you could have something just like this. There's a lot of interest right now in light industrial, research and development, high-tech. So we're anticipating that those types of uses that are permitted zone-wide may occur, just south, but we're gonna kind of finish the Innovation District before we jump to that.
Sure. The reason I asked the question, Dan, was in the staff comments, they recommended some trees along the southern side of the southern parking area. Do you guys have a position on that?
I think we have some, and we certainly.
I think they were thinking about.
There's a path there that's part of our trail network, so we would just want to coordinate any additional landscaping with that path. You can see it shown on the plan.
Okay. And what's the? I'm just looking at the staff comments here. Oh, on the driveway, the truck driveway. I agree with the previous comments about signage will be important to try and get trucks to go into that particular access entryway versus the other. But I'm inclined to reduce the width of that truck using that, the concrete pad, primarily so that all the access points to all the different buildings along that whole strip, that whole area, would be roughly the same width. And you would accomplish that by putting that concrete pad there, which will allow the tractor trailers to still get in there. So that's what I'm thinking on that. And I guess staff mentioned that there's, I think in the presentation, there was something about the electrical transformer. Was that mentioned? I know it was mentioned in the previous one.
Well, do you want to point that?
Yeah, sorry. The transformer is located within this landscaped island and will be heavily screened.
Okay, all right. And what about the dumpster? Where's that going to go?
Thanks for bringing that up. And then the dumpster would also
Right there, okay.
go at this location. It's got the best proximity between the three proposed spaces. We had looked at kind of putting it in the outer portion of the truck turnaround space, but just felt as though that would really kind of be highlighting the dumpster versus having it up against the building, screening it, having it almost just blend into the side of the building. And it's closer to the users.
Okay, and
we also,
I guess the last thing is the staff brought up the idea of putting some sort of construction fencing up. I guess that's along the wetlands. That's during construction. Okay, that's all set. I was thinking of something else. And I have no problem with the parking proposal. I think, like I said, the building looks great. I think based on the dimensions of the property and everything where it's located in the wetlands and everything else, you're doing this as well as you can do. And I think it'll be okay. I'm all set.
Thanks, Roger. Rick Manking.
There, I found myself. No, I don't have a whole lot more to add. This is, it is, with the trucks, it does make it a challenge with the entry. But I also respect the fact that you've isolated the trucks to the rear of the building, which is great. And you've already addressed the lighting. While it's not quite like Logan, as Tom had mentioned, you're still like a foot candle too high on recommended IES. So you've already mentioned that. It's a good looking building. One of the I guess the uncertainty is not having tenants. You don't know what's going in there. And the reason why I bring it up is when you look at the building today, it looks great. But let's, for example, think that there could be a cannabis manufacturing going in there. Well, now you're going to be talking about air scrubbers and things of that nature. So it naturally changes what you're going to see. And, a lot of that can be done on the roof, but now you have a sloped roof. So I don't have an answer for you, and I don't have any directive or direct solutions, but it does mean that there's got to be some considerations placed on these as we're looking at the buildings. And just wondered, a facade on the roof line where you could put mechanicals behind it. Just throwing that out. Again, I don't have a solution for you. I don't know who's going to go in there, but it is the uncertainty of what your tenants could be bringing in there that does change the characteristics of the view that, you will see as you travel down. I know it's private drive, but it's still such a nice development that's going in there. I just want those kind of considerations thought of as you move forward with, some of which is totally unknown at this point. But it's a good looking building. It meets the guidelines. The challenge is, what's going in there and, having that extra wide entryway for the trucks and taking away some of that calming effect that the median had there in the roadway. But other than that, that's all I had to offer, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Rick. Rick Duperi?
Going last is good because I think everybody else has already covered everything that I could think of. I do like how they separated out the trucks and the car parking, but again, it brings up the challenge of having two entrances. And I think I'm sure in the back there you've figured that out so that if you do have all the trucks in there, not that all the trucks would be there at one time, but if for some crazy reason everybody got deliveries at the same time, all those trucks can maneuver out of there without any issues.
That's correct. And I also wonder, Jen had brought up a comment as well about the fire truck access, and that was a staff comment from our meeting. And so we did submit a fire truck turning movements coming in and out of the entire site.
Okay. I'd like the idea of the raised skirting to kind of discourage cars from cutting through there. Although I don't see that as a real huge problem because all the parking's out front. So I don't see too many people driving all the way around the back of the building to get there. But yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to add. I do like the aesthetics of the building. And I know you've got to make, it's got to be financially feasible, but it's almost like if you had 2/3 of that building and not that last part, it would fit better on the lot. But I don't know if you did that, if it would make sense from a financial standpoint to even build the building. So it does look nice. All the buildings in there look nice. I think Dan and everybody's doing a great job out there. That's all I have.
Thanks, Rick. Russell?
Much has been said here. I think it's a nice looking building. It's a big building for the site. I agree with some of Rachel's comments. Rick, I think your comments about the aesthetics, especially on what might be on the roof, I think the applicant should really give that some thought. Depending on the tenants that you have, that may change the whole look and feel of this thing. So I would encourage you to be thinking about that as you're screening your applicants. I mean, they're going to be, tenants want everything, and the tendency is to probably take the first tenant that comes along, but you're going to have to give that some thought. I do have a comment for the staff. I don't know how these matters are treated or have been treated in the past, because we don't know actually the makeup of the tenant, how that's covered in some sort of approval process at this stage. Generally, I like the look and feel of this, but it could be altered depending on who the final tenant is.
Yeah, I can, Russ, if you don't mind. Generally, so the applicant has, as part of their application, put together, user types, and that's what their traffic's been based on. And as we have, and so really, whatever comes forward when they seek tenant fit up, that's when we'll sort of judge that against what the board approves here. So I do think, that does sort of raise some question about, as you were just articulating, what it might mean for the building if there's other users that come along. And again, recognizing that we aren't following the design standards here, but the applicant is providing illustrations of a building that, sort of shows different colors at entries. And is that really what's going to be there when tenants come along? We don't know. So I think that's going to be some of the challenge with this site, is being sure that what comes along sort of at least matches in some capacity what was there. And if it sort of varies too far, then we would say this doesn't meet what the board approved and would have to come back for a site plan amendment. But that certainly presents a challenge.
Right. I think just so everybody's going in with their eyes wide open, we want to be sure that the applicant understands that, and there are some challenges that go along with this. Flexibility is wonderful, and it's necessary when you're trying to attract tenants, but it's challenging for a review board to kind of get their arms around what the final project's going to be. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I was just gonna provide a comment for Russ. Russ, I don't think you were on the board at this point, but we had a somewhat similar site on Dynamic Drive that's behind Throttle in AV Technic, kind of across the street from Crown, where we're doing kind of smaller flex space. It's called the Incube. So one of those is a condo selling units. The other is spaces for lease. A different layout to a degree, but same kind of philosophy where you provide a small office, kind of open warehouse space, and that site's under construction. So we've been thinking about this building in a similar manner, where we're intending the exterior of the building to not be modified, much from what you're seeing. We'd have a different signage. Those 3 spots up there are intended to be the location for signage. If there's 3 tenants, if it's 1, there might only be, the logo in the middle, if you will, where the green is. But we wouldn't intend to change the exterior aesthetics much from what you're looking at. And if we do, we'd come back to the board for kind of review. Similar, Incube was that kind of way, where we got the exterior approved, and then inside space is modified based on the tenants that are going to be leasing up that space.
Thank you.
Ryan here, just because I heard it a few times, the rooftop HVAC. I mean, due to the size of the footprint of the building, what we can do is, guide them to locate them centrally on the building, and I think that'll minimize the visual impact. That will help. And it's just working with the fit up plan to ensure that happens. Another potential could be maybe on some of the lower roofs. So we'll certainly be conscious of that.
Thank you very much. So I think I think the applicant deserves some direction from us, but I also think we have this ordinance issue that we probably should try to overcome. And whether or not it's asking the applicant to get an opinion from their traffic engineer as to whether or not they meet the threshold requirements, or if that's for having two cuts into this at this spot. I don't know if that at that point we as a board should review it. What I'd hate to see is that we don't have clarity for that one issue, because it could really alter the site plan, the layout, the size of the building, a whole bunch of things. And I don't want these guys to get too far down the road without first determining whether or not it's meeting ordinance. So that's my initial thought. Any board members care to weigh in on that one? I'm jumping at once. Rachel.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I guess I'll jump in. I don't think it's meeting the ordinance. I can understand. I can understand the design. I can understand the need for the design. I can understand the appropriateness of the change in the on Center Street, but we do have the rubric of the one curb cut unless congestion, and I think that's the language that's used. And I forgot what the other part is. Warrants a second curb cut, and I certainly don't think congestion warrants it. And I just failing right now because I'm on my 7th hour of Zoom meetings. I can't remember what the other criteria is, frankly. So I'm I just don't think it meets the ordinance.
Jay or Jamel, do either of you have that language handy that you could just read for us?
Yeah, I have it teed up. You ready?
Yep.
So basically it reads, there shall be no more than one full service driveway connection from any lot to any street, except when an additional entrance or exit must be provided to prevent traffic hazards or congestion.
Okay.
And I guess in my presentation, that's why I provided those 4 bullet points talking about the potential, hazards that combining vehicular traffic with tractor trailer traffic could pose, and how we've been, really consistent in all of our site plan applications in the innovation district, including the Crown, was separating out the truck traffic that way.
Yeah, we truthfully thought this design was superior to one driveway, given the mix of activity coming in and out of the site. And this was formerly 2 lots, and we're combining them with one, and kind of having the activity of 2 sites within this one site, and felt like meeting the driveway separation was really more the critical element here, which we exceed, set distance from between driveways. So I guess not anticipating this would be as much of a discussion point, we'd like the opportunity to kind of work with our traffic consultant and coordinate with staff and their traffic consultant before we give up on this design. We think it's personally think it's an appropriate one for this site.
Yeah, and I think that would be, at least from my perspective, appreciated. And then I don't know if it would hurt to see the plan you had with the one driveway to kind of help put some of this in perspective for us. Maybe on the next submission, just included as this is what we were up against. Roger?
Yeah, I'm okay with the 2 driveways because I think from a safety point of view, I don't want to see tractor trailers driving through the parking area where normal cars are, nor do I want to see cars driving around the building going through where tractor trailers may be. So I think if they reduce that entrance where the trucks are planned, where the plan is for the trucks to go in and out of, I could go along with that. And by the way, I think if I'm not mistaken, up behind on Dynamic Drive, I think is where it is behind the Throttle Club. I think they have multiple entrances right along there as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I think the idea is that the applicant needs to just provide information how they meet the standard.
And we're committed to doing that and come back with the board. We're also thinking that this wouldn't be considered a full service driveway. It's focused on truck traffic with low generation versus all the site traffic. But we need to look at the standard more closely.
Could I,
Rocky, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, could I jump in?
Yes.
I just want to point out that, we combined 2 lots. We had 2 curb cuts. We were perfectly fine. By combining the 2 lots, I guess we lose a curb cut. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I just want to point that out.
I think at this point, I think we'd like to see the traffic engineers' thoughts on this, and you'll work with staff and their traffic side too. I know you will. So, I mean, at least that's where I'm at. I don't know if any of my other board members were looking to make a motion on something like this tonight, but I'd like to see more information. No, okay. Is there anyone I missed on the board for question and answer session? I don't think so. Okay. I'm just checking my notes real quick. Excuse me. Okay, I think for right now, I think we just, for what it's worth, I'm interested in seeing it, again, with some more information. It's a really attractive building, and I know it's I know it's an in-demand type of use. I think it's, it's not a bad fit for an innovation district, certainly. But I think we just got to cross some T's, dot some I's on this. Okay.
Understood.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item tonight is staff report.
We can jump in first. Just report on a pre-construction meeting we had today for the Meadowwoods parking expansion along Gorham Road. That's mine. Thanks.
Angela, Jay, any staff reports?
Trying to find the unmute button, sorry. Yeah, just real quick, want to let plan board members know council is planning on having a workshop related to the growth management ordinance on Wednesday evening. So that may be something, if you are so inclined, to either tune in during I think the workshop starts at 6. They have a regular meeting at 7. Or of course you can always watch it at a later date. So just wanted to keep you apprised of that. And also just update you with respect to the comprehensive plan. It is at sort of our final copy editor right now. So I would anticipate sending the revised plan around within the next week or two, is maybe 3 weeks. But I guess what I'm trying to put on your radar is likely as part of that process, the planning board looks like we'll probably have a joint meeting of the planning board and town council as part of the adoption process. So put that on your radars for some point in April, probably. So those are the 2 items that I had.
Angela, anything?
All set.
All set. All right. Administrative amendment report.
There's one to report on this month, and that's just a small amendment to the site at 127 Pleasant Hill Road for a small display area for their equipment within an existing parking area.
Correspondence. None. Planning board comments. Okay. And I will
Just
make
want
a
to note that it's before 10 o'clock, so that's a nice change.
With that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All right, roll call. Rachel Hendrickson.
Yes.
Roger Beely.
Yes.
Rick Meinking.
Yes.
Jennifer Ladd.
Yes.
Nick McGee, yes. Thank you all for a nice meeting this evening. I hope you have a great night.